Hey writers! Welcome to a little video on journaling. I feel like we all have certain kinds of journals we like to use when we write. Maybe you like a variety of different kinds of journals, but talking about journals is something that writers do, right? Because they're the tools of our trade. And so I just did a straight up Google search for journals just to remind us of the variety. This is the one I use most often. It would probably be one like this, the decomposition journals, but they're a little more pricey. Maybe you like spiral bound because you like to flip it. But really, maybe you like no lines at all. You just like to write without lines. So I would encourage you to experiment, to try something unfamiliar. Oftentimes in that unfamiliar, even uncomfortable space, we end up creating something really beautiful. And oh, I have this one. And so for this class, I want you to be mindful about selecting your journal. And you can also use a digital journal, but I do want you to have a paper journal, even if it's not your main space where you create, to have that sacred experience of your writing practice. Writing practice is by far the most important ritual for writers. Whether you get up in the morning at the crack of dawn when everyone's asleep and you make coffee or tea or hot water with lemon and honey and you nuzzle into your favorite chair. For me, it's always with the heating blanket. Whether you journal at nighttime when the world is calm, or if you journal on a subway station, however you create. I know for me, like I often like white noise, but I also like when it's quiet in the morning. And so this semester for the next 12 weeks, we're just, I want you to enjoy your writing practice and to experiment and play. Remember to go for the unfamiliar and sometimes the uncomfortable, and then just see what arises from that space. Grab your journal and do your thing. On our course homepage, we have links here to all our little areas. And the very first one is our journal writing practice. So you might need prompts for cultivating your own writing practice. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just jump in and use it more like a journal to reflect on your day. But I encourage you to kind of just go with whatever feels good. That often leads to a place of creativity. And if you want some prompts, there's some listed here, or some not necessarily prompts, but really just questions for you to reflect on your own writing practice. One thing that helps me is just thinking in terms of people in my life, people, places, and things. It could be an object, something that's special to you, and just reflecting and dropping into that practice, reflecting on that thing. If it's a coffee mug that someone gave you, or a bracelet, just reflecting on that. But oftentimes for me, it's a person, it's an experience with a person that inspires. So here's some topics for writings. If you're wanting some inspiration, Natalie Goldberg has so many great writing prompts, and one of them is just to start with making a list of things based on the words I remember. I remember my mother's teeth. I remember the way the sun felt on my face as I got out of my car and walked down to the beach after a broken heart or whatever. But just not really thinking, just doing it, just jumping straight into it. And the last thing that I wanted to share while we're talking about our writing practice comes from a blog that is titled Whisper Down the Right Alley by Gwendolyn Alley, a professor at Ventura College, who's an amazing writer. And what she does in this blog entry is she talks about Natalie Goldberg's rules for writing practice. And so if you haven't already heard of them, they're awesome. And they're something that you're going to want to imprint into your heart. And so what I want you to do is on the first page of your journal, or at the front of your journal somewhere, or even the very last page, somewhere where you can locate these easily, I want you to write down these rules of writing practice. They come from her book, Wild Mind, Living the Writer's Life. Again, this is from Gwendolyn Alley's blog, but it's Natalie Goldberg's story idea. If you want to be a better writer or improve your writing, or to come to know your own mind, fill a notebook a month by writing for 20 minutes or longer on specific topics, from I remember to I don't remember, to your grandmother's kitchen, to your favorite teacher to teeth to you name it. And so here's our rules. Rule number one, keep your hand moving no matter what. Write whatever comes to mind. Even if a tornado is headed your way, keep that hand moving. Rule number two, be specific. Let it rip. Don't worry if someone will judge you. Don't worry about being nice and sweet. Write whatever is true and whatever you feel, whatever is honest. And rule number three, be specific. Get in the habit of using nouns, verbs, colors, textures. If you don't realize you've written a sentence that's full of general, vague language, don't scratch it out, but make the next sentence more specific. Don't say flower, say rose. Don't say car, say Chevy Impala. Don't say she wasn't nice, say she was a crotchety old lady. Rule number four, don't think. Stick with your first thoughts. Often this rule is expressed by Natalie Goldberg as don't think, don't get logical. You don't have to. Your mind will do all the work for you without you ever thinking. Just be the scribe, write it down. Your first thoughts is that beautiful, brilliant first flash. Stay there. Rule number five, don't worry about spelling, punctuation, or grammar. That's right. Who cares? What does it matter? Keep your hand moving and write clearly enough so you can read it later if you want to, but don't worry about getting stuck on whether or not a comma goes there, or is that the right word, or did you spell it correctly? All of those things, that editor, if you allow that editor to come in while you're creating, you will stop your own flow. Rule number six, you're free to write the worst junk in the world. Yep, you are. So don't let that fear stop you. And then rule number seven, go for the jugular, that jugular. If something comes up while you're writing, keep writing about it, let it out. Write hard and clear about what hurts. And Natalie Goldberg also says, lay it gently on the page. So this is our first little entry into journals, into writing practice, and the rules of writing practice. And we'll be checking in to see what your writing practice is, what you've decided for the next 12 weeks.